So this is my Powerball Katana blaster. It started its life out as a pump-action rival blaster from Dart Zone. This one was found at Target. The Walmart equivalent is called the Adventure Force Titanium, and it does the same thing, but I prefer the ergonomics of this one. Mainly it's got a big vertical pump grip that I like. First thing I did when I got my Powerball was just to put a single barrel on it and use it as a muzzle loader for darts. And not surprisingly, I got a hell of a lot more range than a typical dart blaster or a rival blaster. And now that I have the magazine, it still works in that capacity if you have an empty magazine, as I have now, or if you just don't have a magazine in the blaster. To insert or remove the magazine, there are tabs here, and on the other side, it's ambidextrous. And so you can just use your thumb to push that forward and make sure the bolt is back. I still forget that every time. And then you get your mag out, and inserting it is basically the same process, except you don't need to touch the button. You can just push it in, and it'll snap in. It's got a little bit of play, but I found that isn't a problem, and when the bolt goes forward, it holds the magazine more in place. So you can get a better view of the magazine catch. I'm going to bring this a little closer up. You might be able to see through the hole that there's actually sort of a catch spring sized helical spring inside there, and there's just a little triangle of plastic that's going to go back and forth as I move this. Also wanted to show you on the inside, the breech pin moves with this handle, and the breech pin is actually just a piece of PEX tubing, and that's just coupled on to the plunger tube. And this blaster is a little bit unusual in that the plunger tube actually moves back and forth with the priming motion, and it's actually the front of the plunger tube that's pushing the plunger rod, head, all that air pushing stuff. It pushes all that back towards the back of the blaster and gets it caught in the catch in the back of the blaster. This breech pin enters here. A lot of people will use an O-ring, lubrication, some other rubber seal to make it seal perfectly. And I can see how that helps in a lot of cases, but it does mean you have lubrication in an area where darts are going through, and all sorts of other dirt's going to get into that. So it's not ideal. In my case, I had a very loose barrel, so a tight seal isn't super necessary. Also, the plunger rod in this is very, very lightweight for how much power it's got behind it. So it's moving very fast, and you don't need that usual delay that often is required with springers to build pressure and actually get the dart to exit with great speed instead of just, falling out the barrel followed by a lot of air. I feel like you should probably have figured out by now how this thing is fired and operated, but nonetheless, I'm going to show you. And I also have an outdoor firing video that gives you an idea of what kind of power this thing has. Anyways, you have to fire before it'll let you pull the bolt back, because you're repriming the blaster when you do that. Shove a magazine in that actually has darts in it. Pull the bolt forward, fire, pump, beep. Pretty simple, pretty fast rate of fire, and it's pretty powerful. These were the first blasters that I made for the Katana magazines, and they're the first blasters and really the only blasters I've used with the Katana magazines. And I'm very satisfied with them, and I think I've got the Katanas working great. But I do think I'm going to be moving away from using Katana magazines in the future. The main problem is that the Katana magazines are somewhat hard to get. The company that makes them, it's not a Nerf thing, so you can't expect them to be as available as, an N-Strike mag you can just buy at Walmart. But also, this particular company is sort of famous for being bad at customer service. So it's kind of a dicey situation to rely on them if you're going to be making a bunch of guns and wanting to have magazines for them. I'm not giving up on short dart magazines. I think I'm just going to be making my own from here on out. I've been experimenting with fixed magazines to that end, and you may have noticed the videos. The other problem that I've had with this blaster is that it was discontinued. So I can't buy this blaster anymore, and I really don't want to remodel this whole thing to fit on the titanium, which is still available at Walmart. So unfortunately, although these turned out great, the project sort of turned out to be a dead end for me. Even though this blaster isn't actually widely available anymore, I still put the files up on Thingiverse, and if you happen to already have one of these and you want to make it run with katana mags like mine does, or if you just want to use the files to try and invent your own solution for another blaster, possibly the titanium, you can find those on Thingiverse, and I'll have the link in the description. The files I publish do include a step file, which is a CAD format that most CAD programs can open and edit intelligently, unlike the printable STL files, which they're often called meshes, and they're sort of a nightmare for most CAD programs. So that's basically it for the Powerball Katana. I should note before I go that unlike most of the blasters that I do videos about, it's not just a proof of concept. I actually like using this blaster. I loan it out. Other people like using this blaster, and they generally do pretty well with it. So, if you can get your hands on the pieces for this, I would highly recommend trying to build one for yourself. Anyways, I'm glad you stuck around to watch the video. Like, subscribe, all that stuff's good. Yeah. Go outside.